Okay, so we wanted to do a Zoom because tonight we know that it often happens that midway through the month, you're either really hyped up about your goal that you set at the beginning of the month, or you're at a point where you're like, oh shoot, I'm not as close as I wanted to be. Can I even hit this goal anymore? Like, what happened? Like, I thought I'd be further. This seems really far. This seems really hard. And I call it like the mid-month slump. Like I feel like everyone goes through it when we're going for big goals, that it's like you're halfway through and it's like you don't have that urgency of the end of the month, but still like I want the goal, but I'm just like not sure if I should still be going for this, if I should go for something else. So Lindsay and I kind of wanted to talk about that. And I first off wanted to share with you guys that no matter how hard or how far you are from your goal right now, there is still so much time to finish it. Okay. Never count yourself out of a goal because you never know what can happen. When I was promoting to Double Diamond on my account, we needed like 3,300 BV, 3,300 in volume on the last day of the month, and we got it done, pulled it in. So you might be sitting there 2,000 from Ruby and you're like, I got nothing done so far this month and I want to be further. And you might cut yourself up, but there's still so much time. It just is like a matter of flipping the switch and just running. So we have 5 things we want to talk about and just kind of go over to help you guys understand there is still time. Lindsay, do you want to start? You want me to?
Oh, I can. Sorry. Cody just walked in, so I want to make sure he wasn't going to make noise. Yeah, I am totally happy to start.
Okay.
Because yeah, like Courtney said, you guys, there's still plenty of times. I apologize for my voice. I don't want to say I'm losing it. I think I'm like on the backside of getting it back, so I sound a little like raspy. But yeah, like there's definitely like still lots of time, but we want to talk about like making sure that you have a plan, because while there is plenty of time, if we sit here and like deedle doddle like every single day and be like, oh, I have plenty of time, I have plenty of time, I have plenty of time, and then before you know it, it is going to be the end of the month and you're going to be like, what the heck did I just do with the last like 2 weeks? So first of all, like, I don't know, Courtney, do you want me to like, we can work through like the list that you sent me and maybe like touch on each thing? Okay. So first thing is like knowing what your goal is. So whether you're working on promoting to a certain rank, you want to have a certain amount of volume, or maybe a certain amount of enrollments, like you need to know what at the end of this month you want to accomplish. And or maybe it's even like, I want to get this many tier 1s or this many tier 2s completed. So you first of all have to know what your goal is. So if you don't have a goal yet, you need to think about what that is. If you don't really know how you're going to figure that out, talk to your upline and be like, hey, like I kind of like don't really know what I'm like doing here. I'm just like going through the motions of like hoping things happen, because like you can't even just say like, oh, I just want to like enroll loyal customers and distributors. Like I feel like you really need to have a number, because if you just say, oh, I just want to enroll people, like you're not really motivated, you're not really pushing yourself to like accomplish that. You know what I mean? Like you're just like happy with whatever. So really make sure that you have that goal. Courtney, do you want to add anything?
No, I just think it's super important to have a tangible goal that you can work towards, because if you don't have a specific goal, you're never going to know if you hit it or not. Right. So like if your goal is to sign just customers and distributors, well, you don't know, like, is that 1 customer? Is that 20 customers? Right. Like, so you have to have a tangible goal so that a week from now you can say like, hey, am I a week closer to hitting my goal? Right. You have to be able to like check mark things of like, yes, I'm this much volume closer, or I'm this much closer to the rank or whatever. So you have to know what your goal is. But beyond that, you need to know what you need for that goal. Right. So if you're like, okay, I want to go emerald, great. Do you know what you need for emerald? If you're like, I have no stinking clue, that's okay. But talk to your upline and say, hey, I want to go emerald this month, but like, I don't even really know what I need. Or maybe you wanted to go ruby and you don't know what you need. Or you're in your first high Vanessa, you're in your first 30 days and you're like, I just want to get my first 4-in-1, my $150 bonus, but I don't know what I need. Talk to your upline and figure it out. Because when you know exactly what you need, like we said, with having a tangible goal, you know what you're working for. You know that you're getting closer or not, right? So like I knew at the beginning of this month, what I needed to finish. I still need 10 customers and 3 distributors to finish my goals this month, right? Minimum. So I know if a week from now, I still need 10 and 3, that's not good, right? I know that I'm not getting any closer to my goal. So I need to be doing more than what I have been doing because what's been happening the past week isn't doing enough, right? So you have to know what you need to keep you focused on where you're going, okay? And what I want you to do is when you figure out what your goal is and what you still need, I want you to print it out somewhere, right? Or write it down somewhere, or get some like little sticky notes and that these represent customers and put 10 of them on your wall and pull one down every time you get a customer, right? You need something visual in front of you to know that you're getting closer towards your goal. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like you're dilly-dallying, going around in a circle in a carousel, not knowing if you're actually any closer. Right. So that's why it's important, like we said, to have that tangible goal and know what's still needed to get there. So, Lindsay, anything you want to add to that?
Like there was, and then it just like left my brain as fast as it came.
You raise your hand and then you're like, never mind.
I'm gonna try to think of it as we're talking.
Okay.
Again. Dang it. Yeah. So like, and then you know what you need. Now the next, and it was kind of just something along the lines of, if say you like, you need this much volume and this amount of time, you can kind of like, and I know you've talked about like this before, like figuring that up, like how many customers we need to bring in a day. Like I was doing this at the end of last month. I was like, okay, we need this much volume. So between like 4 of us, that if we could each bring in this many customers a day or this much volume a day, like, you know what I mean? So then it's not all on you, and you kind of have like a breakdown and be like, because then if you're signing like more customers, like, or bringing in more volume, you're kind of like, okay, I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But then the next thing is like, once you know all that, is knowing who your key players are. Like, who are the people that are working with you on your team to help you with that goal? And it doesn't have to be like a bunch of people. It could literally just be 1 or 2 of you. And I was on a Zoom like last week with like John and Sherry Lynn, and they were like Sherry Lynn was kind of talking about like toward working on goals and things like that, working on promotions. And she's like, I used to always tell myself, like, who are my babies? Like her babies were the people on her team that she was like taught, like she knew what they were doing. Like she talked to them every single day. Like she knew like what they had going on for that day. She knew like what their schedule was. She knew like what they were having for dinner. Like she was like, I was talking to them so much. Like I knew like we just were talking about work, but like in the meantime, you're like finding out everything else. She's like, you're just talking to them all the time. So like when you think about like, who are your babies or who are your main people on your team that you're working with? And like, make sure that you know that, and make sure that you know what they're working on. Make sure you're communicating with them. And like, I like to be like going back and forth. Like when I have someone that I'm working on a goal with, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just signed up a customer 30 BV down. And then like, kind of like we're going back and forth. Like I want to make sure like I'm keeping them up to speed on like what things are happening. So they're kind of like keeping their things updated as well. And we're working together. And you want to make sure like, hey, what do you need help with? Hey, who are you talking to? Like, what potentials do you have? This is a message that I'm making sure I'm sending. Like, we're always talking to all of our team about those things, but with those people that are those key players, like you're kind of like being a little bit more hands-on, like you're being a little bit, you're like, there's a lot more communication like happening. So think about that.
And something I want to add, because I know that some people on and some people that are watching the recording are like, but I don't have anyone working on my team right now. Mm-hmm. Then your key player is your upline. It's me or Lindsay. Your key player is reaching out to your upline and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. Hey, here's what's going on. Do you have any tips for this? Here's what my goal is. Hey, what's working for you? Hey, is this enough? Hey, like staying in constant contact with someone, because having that person that you're running towards goals with is key. And I can't tell you how many times my only key player was Lindsay. My only key player was myself. And you will get through that, and you're going to look back and be like, oh my God, remember when my team was like me, myself, and I, and the person that I signed up that ghosted me immediately after, right? I just had one that signed up the other week that she joined, and then I haven't heard from her since she sent me a confirmation. I don't know. It happens, right? So just know that if you're in a point where you're like, this is depressing because I don't have a key player, you will get to a point that you look back and you're like, man, I was at a point where I didn't have anyone, and now look at my team, right? And also, let me go back a step because I wanted to say this earlier. Your goal that you set when we said, what is your goal? If your goal does not excite you, but it stresses you out, you need to switch the goal. Because I have been there so many times that I set a goal that I think was supposed to be my goal, but it like crippled me that I'm like, I don't even know what to do. I can't do anything because I'm so stressed about how far this goal is and I just can't, I don't even know, right? If the goal doesn't feel right, we need to find a new goal. And it can be similar, but it could be worded differently. Maybe your goal was like, oh, I want to finish 3 tier 1s and 3 tier 2s, and that stresses you out, but maybe you're like, hey, let's look at Ruby instead, and that doesn't stress you out as much. Very similar, but like figure out what works for you so that your goal doesn't make you want to die. Okay, because we've all had those that like hurt our heart a little bit.
Well, yeah, and like, or if it's like, if you want to go emerald or go diamond, but like that like stresses you out, but like maybe like just getting your ruby back or getting your emerald back. Like to me, like it's always like good to have like a long-term goal, but having those like short-term goals as well, because you focusing on getting your ruby back is going to help build up your team to help you go get that emerald. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you're like downplaying yourself to say, oh, I don't think I can be emerald. No, like, but you're just giving yourself that stepping stone. Or like Courtney said, if you feel like overwhelmed by like, oh my gosh, like I really want to get emerald, but that chart is like freaking me out and it's like almost like stopping you. Just look at it, be like, okay, I want to get my ruby back. Yeah. Or, I want to hit executive or, whatever it is. I want to get my diamond back, whatever your thing is. But I was also to like go back to the key player thing. It's okay too if your key players aren't like crazy, like running, like going at it like as hard as you are. If they're willing to like put up posts, if they're willing to have a messenger party, like those are things that I'm asking. Like, shoot, even if I have people on my team who aren't really like super gung-ho, I'm like, hey, would you mind like putting up a post? And I'll even like message the people that are commenting for you, because if nothing else, like I can be like tapping into their network. I can even like sign them on their link or whatever, move them to them, so it's not like, because I get it, like they're kind of like half in, so you don't want to be like, I'm stealing your customers, but they're not really like putting in the work. If I need that volume, I'm like, whatever I can do to kind of sign some customers and get you out there. And then sometimes that even excites them to be like, oh dang, like if I do post, like people do comment, and like kind of like rejuvenates them too. Or like I said, if you can be like, hey, would you want to have a messenger party with me? Like just see what you can do to kind of help get them involved, even if it's not like, hey, let's go balls to the wall and like, go crazy. Like see what you can have them do to help you do that. Because maybe they're like walking instead of running, but at this point you're like, hey, I'll take anything to just help like take some of that pressure off, or help chip away at some of those numbers.
Yeah. So the next thing that we want you to figure out is, so when we talked about what do you still need for your goal, there is, I don't know, 3 weeks left of the month. No, that's not right. 19 days ish, something like that, right? So your goal, say you need, we're going to make
there almost is 3 weeks left.
Almost, right? There's a lot of, that's a lot of time. There was 4 weeks in all of February. Okay. There's a lot of time left, but so we're going to make it really easy. There's 19 days left. So we're going to say you needed 1900 left. Okay. So breaking that down, you need 100 BV a day, which is what? 2 people to order 2 bottles of gummies, right? Or somebody to order a slimming system plus slimmer, right? Or whatever. Like just break it down so you know. So then, knowing what you need every day, I want to ask you, what do you need to be doing every day to make that happen? Okay. And if you don't know what you need to be doing to make that happen, reach out to me or Lindsay and say, hey, here's my goal. This is what I'm doing every day. Do you think that's enough? Do you think I should switch it? And if you're on my team, I want to encourage you, and Lindsay, sorry, I didn't warn you about this. I want to encourage you to go to Lindsay and say, hey, I'm on Courtney's team. Here's what I'm doing every day. Here's my goal. Here's what I need. Do you think that's enough? If you're not under me and you're on Lindsay's team, I want you to message me and say, hey, here's my goal. Here's what I'm doing every day. Here's what I still need. Is there anything else you would do? Because sometimes it's nice to get another perspective, right? But you need to know what you're doing every single day. Okay. And you need to ask yourself like, hey, how much time do I have in a day? And I want you to ask yourself, is that truly all I have, or can I find some more time? Right? Can I put down Netflix for 3 weeks? Can I put down whatever? Right? How much time do you have and how are you going to be intentional with that time, right? What are you going to do with that time? And lastly, and probably the most important, is how are you going to hold yourself accountable to do that, right? Because it's so easy to say on these Zooms, okay, I'm going to do 5 post to post, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm great, and life is wonderful, right? It's so easy when you're hyped up on a Zoom to be like, no, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to get it done, and it's going to happen. But then tomorrow comes and life hits and your kid's sick and this happened, right? And then the day gets away from you. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable? And let me give you a tip. Find someone outside of your team, up or down, right? So like people like, I'm just going to say random people, Amanda and JC, you guys are both on my team, but you're not connected. So maybe you two can hold each other accountable, because if it's people like, I can't hold myself accountable to Lindsay because I feel like she's my boss and that stresses me out. Because if I have to tell Lindsay what I do every day, I want to shoot her. Okay. And Lindsay knows that. She will never, ever text me and say, did you finish your task list today? Because she knows that would not end well. Right. So just know, like, find someone that you vibe with that you're like, hey, do you want to keep each other accountable? Don't be afraid to go in our team chat or Lindsay's team chat or wherever and say like, hey, here's my goal. Does anyone want to stay accountable with me? We can just keep each other accountable, say what we're getting done. There's so much power in that, because on your bad days, the other person's probably having a good day. And instead of letting that getting you down, let that hype you up and be like, hey, they signed a customer today. Let me ask them like what they did to do it. Right. And then the next day, they might be having a bad day and they might need you to help them. Right. And there's so much power in that. And there's so much growth. So just know, what do you need to do every day? Where is that time going to come from to do it? And how are you going to stay accountable to getting that done? Lindsay, you want to talk about the last thing?
Well, yeah, but I want to add on really quick too.
Yes.
Like something that I'll like do is, and this is like one of my girls that promoted last month to Ruby, like her chart, but like writing down like the volume, like what you need and like what you have, like and I even did like projected, because I feel like it's kind of harder to say like what you have now, because like people's auto ships can be turned off so easily. But I do like projective and what that like needs. So like if they need 400, okay, where is the volume at? If all the orders ran like 2-day for the rest of the month, like the way they're set up. So I kind of have an idea. And then every time like I'm signing somebody or somebody or that distributor is signing, I'm like updating these numbers like every single day. So every single day, like you're knowing like what you're needing and you're like watching it like chip away. So I think that's like really good too, to like help keep yourself accountable, because you're kind of like paying attention. You're like looking at numbers, like also like checking in with the people who are like your key players and like finding out like what they've got going on. Like, hey, how are you doing with potentials? But like Courtney said, like knowing what you need to do each day. And like, you guys, like if you're like super serious about promoting, like I know we talked about this before, but like your promotion like time or like going after a huge goal, like you're working like a different way than you normally would. Like you're putting in like more time, like more effort than you normally would. And again, this isn't how it always is, but this is like a push. Like this is a huge month for you. So you're going to do like a little bit extra. You're going to work a little harder to get that goal. And then you can kind of like not totally let off the gas, but you're going to go crazy. Like today I was like, I just had a birthday party at a friend's house. Like my friends were still hanging out, but I like had to come home to do this Zoom, because this is something that like, you know, I'm like doing, like I'm committed to doing this. So, and there's even like times where like I'm like, oh, like I really want to go watch this show, but I need to send out these messages or I need to do this. So it's like making little sacrifices. And again, like it's not, you don't have to do that, but if you're really serious, like it's just like those things that you're doing to make sure you hit that goal. So maybe like you're thinking about, okay, these are what tasks I usually do, but right now, as you push for this goal, you're going to double those things. Just because you know, like you are serious about your goal and you want to make these things happen. So I'm going to do extra to make those happen. Yeah. And like Courtney said, just having like that accountability is really big too.
Yeah. And you guys, I like play games with myself because I'm very competitive, that I'll literally be like, okay, I want to watch, like, so we just finished Outer Banks, but I wanted to watch it. Right. And I would tell myself, okay, I'm not going to let myself watch this until I get up 5 host posts. Right. Or I'm not going to do that until I send out 25 messages or whatever. It can be like legitimately like little dumb stuff. Like, oh, I want ice cream, but I'll make myself send 20 host post messages real quick. And then I'll get my ice cream. right? And then it's like this little like excitement, like you're like, oh, cool, I got it done real quick. Because most of the things that we need to do for the business, it takes less time to do it than to think about, oh, I should do this, but I don't feel like it, but I really should, but oh, I just don't want to, I'm so tired, right? We spend more time trying to convince ourselves to do it than it takes to actually do it. So if you just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get it done, then you can chill, right? It's not like this business is not hard. This business should not take you 8 hours a day. So,
Well, and like, I was even gonna say, like, sometimes something I'll do is like when I'm watching a show or something, like during the commercials,
yeah,
I'll like send some messages or answer messages or something like that. And then my show can come back on, I'll watch, and then a commercial, I'll like get back to my messages. But I have to say too, you guys, like, Courtney is also like the queen of like making crazy things happen. So if there's anybody that like can help you guys like with like a goal that maybe you think seems absolutely ridiculous, like Courtney like has done really crazy things over the years, like things where you're like, she's like, and every time, like, and I probably shouldn't tell her this because I know it can still happen, but like she'll be like, oh my gosh, like, can I do that? I'm like, heck yeah. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how is she gonna do this? And she does it. Like, the things that she has pulled out like are amazing. So like if nothing, like if Courtney is like the person to listen to, if you feel like you have a big goal and it's not going to happen, like Courtney, she can like help you drive that bus home for sure because she's done all the things.
I will
So-
I will say to that, it is not that I am magical, but I am, like I said, I'm very competitive and I have an irrational fear of failure. Like it's like really, really bad. Like I probably need therapy realistically. But I have this irrational fear that like if I told Lindsay I was gonna do something and then I don't do it, it's like crippling to me, which is not good. Okay. Y'all don't be like that. But it stresses me out to think of telling Lindsay, like, hey, I told you I was gonna do this in the beginning of the month and then I didn't. It like stresses me out. And now I talk to Lanisa from corporate and to think that like she knows my goals. And if I don't do it, I'm like, God, the world is falling. Like it just, I can't handle it. So when I set goals that Lindsay might be like, sure, yeah, you got it. I run like the freaking wind. Like when I tell you promotion months, I would be sending out 500 host post messages a day. I would. Like I did not let anything stop me, but it's not always time for that. And I didn't do like being realistic. I do not do that all month, but like the last 10 days of the month, I'm like, I don't even know, like the Energizer Bunny. Like I just run because when I set a goal that I like legitimately believe can happen, in my head, there is no not doing it. Like if I say like, hey, I'm going to finish this, like I know my goal this month, I know what I'm finishing. There is no not finishing. There is no option not to get it done. Because leading to the next point, I know why I need that goal. Right? I don't set goals just to be like, oh, it'd be really cool if I did this. Like, I don't know, it doesn't really affect anything. Because that's not motivating, right? Like, who wants to do something just because? Not, I don't enjoy that. Like, I need to have a why set to it. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, like, I know a lot of you, 3 of you at least on here, want to go Ruby this month and get that $500 Ruby bonus, right? And that's right there. And you're like, I want that so bad. But I want you to ask yourself, why do you want it? And I don't want to hear, oh, I just need more money. Okay, what is that for $500 going to go towards? What relief is that going to give you? What stress is that going to take off your shoulders? What will that do for your family? You need to see it as if it's already happened. Not that you're going to actually spend the money before it comes in, but you need to know where it's going, right? Because if you're like, oh, I'm just going to put it in my bank account, doesn't really do anything. But if you're like, oh, that would pay my car bill, like my car payment this month. Okay, well, that's pretty freaking cool to pay a car payment from working on your phone, right? I remember the first time I paid all of my bills from just my works check, and I was like, oh, snap, I am rich. Because I felt like I had so much money because it was all of my bills. Granted, they were much smaller back then, but it was all of my bills were covered by my phone, and my full-time job was just extra, right? And it was so cool. So I need you to look at why you're doing this, why you need this to happen, why you want to go ruby or to earn a success bonus or to go emerald or whatever, get your diamond back. I don't know who else on, but why are you doing it? And you need to run once you figure out that why, because if your why does not motivate you, that's not your true why. And if you don't know someone, I don't remember, I've heard this a long time ago, but if your why doesn't push you, then figure out your why not, or what you're running from, right? So like maybe just to have an extra $500 doesn't really motivate you, but maybe the thought of like, oh, if I do this, then I don't have to do this. Maybe that'll motivate you, right? So like for me, when I was running on my first promotion run, and Lindsay, the same thing, like we had goals to get home, right? To quit our full-time jobs, to pay off debt, to do all this stuff. But now that we're home, goals aren't as motivating, right? But the thought of going back to a full-time job makes me want to cut my head off. So my why is not necessarily, yes, it's what I'm working towards, but my what I don't want to do is a heck of a lot stronger, right? Because I cannot imagine going from being home all day with Carter to being like, actually, I have to go to work from 9 to 5. So just your why can be either one, but you just have to have something that motivates you, because you're going to have days, and you have already had days this month that you woke up and you're like, I don't want to do anything today, right? We've all had those days where you're like, I just straight up don't want to. And one day turns into 2 days, turns into a week, and then you're like, shoot, it's the end of the month and I didn't do anything and I just missed a bonus. Because all of you, even if you're brand new and just joined today watching this recording, you could still go Ruby this month. People have gone Ruby in hours. Okay? And I don't say that to intimidate you or to make you feel like you suck because you didn't go Ruby in hours, but I'm just telling you what's possible. Okay? I went Ruby in almost 2 years. Okay? Don't do what I did. 2 years. It was not fun. But it is possible. You just have to run. Lindsay, is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I feel like you like really said it. I'm thinking of a lot of things though while you're talking, and I just like, this is like random-ish, but like I like want to go back to you, and because I feel like this can be like relevant for a lot of people, is like, you know, feeling like maybe you don't have like key players, and feeling like, you know, maybe you don't have anyone else, like, because I know you've been in that situation, like we have both, but like I want to talk to you because I feel like you make crazy things happen. Like if that was you, like now, like what would, or even back to then, like what were you doing like in that moment where you're like, I have this goal, I want to accomplish this, but really like I'm the only one that I feel like is really like wanting that to happen. Like what did you do to make sure that you did it?
So the biggest one that I can think of for that when that was happening was when I was promoting to Emerald. And I went to conference in January and they announced an Emerald bonus, very similar to what this one is. And in February, I was like, all right, we're going to do it. It's going to be an awesome month. I'm going to go Emerald. And nothing happened in the month of February. Okay. I think I signed one customer in the month of February. I had no team. I had no nothing. And I got to a point probably right around now where I was midway through the month that I was like, shoot, like I am not really close to that goal. But at that time, my financial need and my financial why was so strong that, again, the option of not going Emerald wasn't an option. I knew that I had to hit it. So I first kind of sat down. It was Matthew and I were living in an apartment. We were recently dating. And I sat down with him and I said, hey, here's what I still need for my goal. And he was very new to my life. He had no idea what it works with. Like he didn't know what BV was. And he was like, okay, great. And I was like, so I need to work a lot more. So can you help me figure out where I can work? Right. So what I did is I got up and I did 5 a.m. power hours with Lindsay and we looked like legitimate death. Okay. But I did that. So I did a power hour from 5 a.m. We did it from like 5 to 6:30. And then I went to work. Then I came home and Matthew cooked dinner and did the dishes every day. Cause I was like, listen, I need like just a couple weeks of like running. Okay. So he took that over. So when I got home, I worked. Then I ate dinner. I sat with him for a half hour. I was working on my phone. And then I did 2 more power hours before I went to bed. Granted, I did not have children. I did not have a ton of responsibilities, right? But I was at a point that I was like, if it is going to happen, it's going to be for me. Like straight up, all 5,000 BV for Emerald had to come from me. Because I had distributors, but no one was working. And I knew that newer distributors don't usually come in and sign 500 or 1,000 BV right off the bat, right? Like they're just kind of trying to figure it out. And some of you probably are newer and you're like, I'm just trying to figure it out too. Like I'm signing customers, but like I'm still learning how to do things. So I knew that if I was going to go Emerald that month, I had to figure out how I could do it myself. And I told myself that I flipped my mindset that I was like, I'm going to do everything myself. And if my team brings anything extra, that's great. I'm going to do in my head that I have to do everything. And if my team can bring in anything, then it's great and it's extra, because that took the pressure off my new distributors that I didn't sign when I was like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that, because I know that I myself can be overwhelming, right? So I just got to a point mentally that I was like, I need to shoulder this and take all of this and accept that I'm going to do all of it myself, right? Now, I don't recommend that for any rank higher than Emerald. Really, you can go Ruby on your own 100%. Emerald is a little tricky to do on your own, but you can do it on your own. Diamond and up, you need your team. You need at least a couple people working with you. But I had to figure out, and I had a long talk with Lindsay, and Lindsay, you were like, I don't remember any of this, but that's fine. I had a long talk with Lindsay and I was like, hey, I need to bring in like 5,000 GV in 2 weeks. So what do we do? And Host Post was new. And I kind of got myself into a no excuses type of attitude where like I was getting up 20 to 30 host posts a day. I was sending out 100 friend requests a day. I was following up with every single person. I was doing every single thing. I was going live every day. I was posting multiple times a day. I was doing every single thing possible that I could do, right? Because I wanted to get to the end of the month and say like, I truly gave it everything I had. Because I wanted that if I was going to miss that goal, it was knowing that I laid it all out on the table. And it wasn't like, well, I tried, but like my team, like I didn't want to have any excuses or say like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that, right? I wanted to leave it all on the field. And that's what I did, is I just had to get to a point that I was like, I'm going to do more than I've ever done before for the next couple of weeks and see what happens. Right? And that's what happened. And then that started a massive run in my business that I made, I don't even know, insert income disclosure here, like 30 or 40,000 in 6 months, like insane money. Right? So you just like, it just comes from a decision. And some of you might not be at that point if you're in your life where you're like, I'm ready to give it my all. Like I will stay up later. I will get up early. I will sacrifice sleep. Like if you're not there, it's okay. But if you're like, I will do whatever it takes, you have to know your goal. You have to know what you can do and how you can do way more than that. And you need to be insanely mentally tough. Because unfortunately, there are two things that are going to happen when you get into that mindset of I'm going to do so much more than I ever have before. Okay. First thing that's going to happen is you're going to experience a heck of a lot more no's and a heck of a lot more people that are going to say, oh, I'll post for you and then don't, or, oh, I'll order Friday and then don't, or, oh, I'll join and then don't, or you'll have people that order and then they cancel their order and you're like, what the heck just happened? Or you'll have people who become a distributor and then ghost you, right? You're going to have more of that because you're doing more and talking to more people. The second thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel like your world is falling apart. I don't know why, but I will promise you it's going to happen. When you're on the cusp of greatness, that like massive things are happening, it's going to feel like life is smacking you upside the head, like straight up. Because I don't know why it happens, but almost every time something major or something distracting will happen to try to stop you from your goal. And in my head, the way my belief system is that that's the devil trying to stop me from what God has called me to, right? God called me to this goal. God gave me this. It's not like that Geico commercial that's like, do you want this? Nope, too late, right? Whatever. That's not God. God called you to this goal, and if you're close to it and you're giving it everything you got, the devil's going to try one more trick shot to try to stop you. Okay. And so if you know that's coming and you know all the no's are coming and you can work on being mentally tough, then it's not going to hit as hard. So, Lindsay, did that answer your question? I feel like I went on like
Yes.
a rant of a lot of different things, but
No, I definitely think it did, because like I feel like it's important to know that like you don't have to do it on all on your own. However, like when you want to make things happen, like it's okay to say, I'm gonna make this happen. And I know I've been in that position a lot. And it's just, you can't, something I think about is like, what are my goals? Like, and I'm not gonna let other people keep me from reaching those. So sometimes you're at a point where it's like, I'm making this happen regardless. So I need to do it. And like, I just wanted Courtney to share that because I know that she's been in that position and it's a real position. Like, and it's nothing bad or crazy, because I feel like it's like a stepping stone that you may find yourself in. And yeah, so definitely like, I don't know.
yeah. And
I'm
also,
excited.
one thing I wanted to add, because I forgot to say this, something that I think you told me, Lindsay, is that your last month doesn't define this month. And I needed to hear that because that March that I'm telling you guys about, I was not a mass enroller. I think the most in customers I'd ever signed in a month was like 4, like legit 4. And in March, I signed over 60. Okay. So your past doesn't define what's happening because you've never done what you're doing in this time. So don't be like, oh, okay, so for Ruby, I need 40 people to order 2 bottles of gummies. Well, I've never signed 40 customers in a month, right? Okay, great. But who says you can't, right? You don't know that you can't because you haven't done this month in this time with this effort, with this why, right? You don't know for sure that you can't. So just know that like you might not have ever done what you're setting out to do, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. I have legitimately, and like Lindsay said, crazy things happen. But I think honestly, I think it's 90% that my mindset is I'm like, oh, it's just going to get done. It's just going to come together, and it does. But I've legitimately signed 25 customers on the last day of the month to finish a goal, which is nuts and not normal. I don't normally sign 25 customers in a day, people. Okay, but when I set my mind to something and I put the work in, God blesses those efforts every single time. So just know that your goal is not too big. You're not too far. Anything can happen.
Yeah. And something I wanted to say just really fast too, you guys, like we talked about at the very beginning, there's lots of time. Like, so even like right now, the more seeds that you're planting I know you might be saying, oh, it's so much time. The more seeds you plant now, that gives more month for those people to come back around. Like maybe if you message people now, they can't order for a few weeks. Well, guess what? A few weeks from now is still this month. So we're going to be just as excited about those people that are going to be ordering in a few weeks. So the more that you can do now, that gives more time for follow-ups, that gives more time for people to be seeing your post. So like we said earlier, like don't sit back and wait and say, oh, I have so much time. Like the more you do now, the better it's going to pay off for you later on. And that just makes me think too, like go back through your messenger and search for people who say like, that they needed to wait a few months, or, they need to wait for their tax returns to come. Like, I know, like maybe if that was like 3-4 months ago, we were like, oh my gosh, like that's going to be flipping never. Well, now that time is now. So I would be going back to those people and being like, hey, like, remember, like, I'm just checking back because I'd love to help get you started if this is a better time, because for some of those people, it is going to be a better time.
Yeah. And you never know when someone's going to say yes. You never know when someone's ready. So I hope this Zoom was helpful. I feel like it was really needed because a lot of you are pushing for goals and you might feel like you're really far. And I know that I've been there. I know Lindsay's been there, and I promise you, you will be there again. You will feel this way again. But we just wanted you to know that there is still time. If you take advantage of the time left and you run and do all of the things, you can hit it. So homework for tonight. 1, if you're on my team, message Lindsay, tell her your goal, tell her what you need left for your goal and what you're doing every day. And if she has any other things she'd recommend. If you're on Lindsay's team, not under me, message me. Okay. Second thing, find a way, whether that's asking in our group chat or whatever, find a way to keep yourself accountable. Okay. that's your homework for tonight. I'm going to end this recording. I'm going to put it up on my YouTube right away. And I hope you guys have a good night, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.